Okay, good evening, people. Max, Isabel, Zuleima, and Carol. It's very nice to have you here tonight in order to talk together about the lessons that we were observing for this course of Didactics of English. How are you today?
Hi,
Yes,
Paola.
Edwin.
Very
Edwin.
fine.
Okay, good.
Yes.
It's great to see you again. Okay, so let's start, people. Okay,
Yes.
so we are going to start with the first question, and this first question is about a description of the lesson that we observed, the lesson or series of lessons. So, Max, would you like to tell us about the lessons that you observed?
Yes, right. The first one, the class, for me, on my experience, the class had relevant aspects, and in general, the application of significant learning and the importance of the active participation of students in their own learning was evident. The class is very active. The teacher demonstrates an appropriate knowledge of the language. So it was a very significant experience or
Oh,
an amazing experience for me and
oh,
my learning. Yes.
okay, good. Okay, excellent. Because you saw how the teacher was making the learning significant for the students, but it was also for you. So that's
Yes.
nice. Okay, good. Caro, what about you? Could you tell us about the classes that you observed?
Okay, in the classes I observed, the teacher class were dynamic because she always did activities where students had to participate. Was a significant learning in the students. I think that it was that the teacher was a good, very good.
Okay,
I think.
okay, good. Dynamic teachers are good example for us, yes, because we can learn different activities and different dynamics. So it's something
Yeah,
very
different,
good for us as a future
very easy
teachers.
activities for the
Oh,
students.
okay, good. Okay, nice. Suleima, what about you? Could you please describe the lessons that you observed to us, please?
Uh, the class was very active since the teacher only 30 activities in front of the subject to be able to make the student learning quickly. The students were very attentive and adequately answer the question and they asked the teacher question.
Okay, good. Okay, nice, Suleima. So it was an active lesson for the students, yes? Because they were not only listening, but they were also speaking, yes? Answering questions. And that's important for the learning process. Okay, good. Thank you so much. Isabel, what about you? Could you please describe the lessons that you observed to the group?
Okay, good evening. It's a pleasure for me to stay here sharing my experience observing a class. And the teacher is comic. When she comes into the classroom, all children run to help her, and she's friendly and kind with them. All they are spending all the time expecting what is going to do the teacher because she always is doing something.
Oh, okay, good. So the students were just expecting, yes? So she created
Yes.
expectations in her lessons. That was good. I observed something similar in the teacher that I was observing. I could see that she planned her lessons very carefully. Actually, she had a notebook for planning the lessons, and she always started the lesson with a game. So it was something that the students were expecting from her. So it was like something catchy, and I really liked the experience of observing her. Good. Okay, people, let's move on with the second question. Please, Max, would you like to read the
Right.
second question for us?
Yes. Yeah, of course. What was the effectiveness of the method in the teaching the four language skills? And was in in the case I observed there is a appropriate language management. The teacher focus on those skills to develop in students the ability to communicate correctly. Generally, in schools, or learning is focuses on grammatical constructions, rather than speaking or listening, and the latter being the less important or less in working in class. So I think in that class was uh, uh, it was more focuses or more in that aspect. So it
Okay,
was
good.
very rich for me. Yes.
Okay, good, nice. So it was a communicative lesson, right? It was not just focus on
Yes.
grammar, and that was also that I observed in the lessons of this teacher that I was just accompanying, because I could see that she was not only focusing on grammar, but she presented the grammar using the noticing approach. That is like a different
Yes.
perspective to make students reflect and understand how grammar works. So that's something very nice. Good. Caro, what about your experience? Could you tell us what was the effectiveness of this method in teaching the four language skills?
It really was handled correctly. Send the teacher to them to the word to pronounce words that they will listen to short audios, videos, and the topics. They also grow in read. In general, it was satisfactory because the teacher always want to take this subject into practice and practice every day. And I think that is very important for the student because they the student will the students will be a cure is coming more fluent in the class.
Mm-hmm.
Really
Okay.
was very good.
Okay, good, nice. So they had opportunities to practice, yes, what they were learning. And that's
Yes.
something important for them. Okay, good. Thank you so much. Suleima, what about you? What do you consider that was effective in teaching these four language skills in the lessons that you could observe?
Okay. According to this point, the teacher handled this very well, since I handled listening, pronunciation activities with just um, um, writing and reading.
Okay, good. So they practice the different skills. Yes. So they started with the pronunciation and then they use the pronunciation in dialogues and they finish with some productive skills. Yes, as writing. So that's something good. Okay, thank you, Suleima. What about you, Isabel? What was your experience about these four language skills?
Okay, students are little and have shorter time for practice. The teacher uses didactic stages that allow them to connect and enjoy English. For example, when the visual helps they got better their listening skills and at the same time they practice preparing what they was listening. In fact, for the teacher, the most important is that the children have the best experience with their English and they love English classes literally.
Okay, good, nice. So they are very visual students, yes, like they like experiencing things, and you could observe that in the lesson. Okay, good. Thank you so much. Good. Let's go with the third question. So please, Suleima, could you read the
Yes.
question number 3 for us, please?
Okay. What do you think happened for example, the student did not understand the exam of the election? Max?
Yes. Uh, well, the dabs are perfect opportunity to reinforce ideas, and in this lesson, the dabs were present, like in a normal class. But in general, the teacher managed to make the lesson understood by her students and appeared in it. There was no lack of understanding on their part. Before doubts, the teacher worked very well. So the doubts are clearly to the final of the class or in the middle of the class. And in every case, the teacher it was present to develop that problem or that doubts. So it's a very important for a teacher attend that troubles or doubts or questions.
Okay, good. Yeah, because that's the thing which students can really develop language. If they don't understand
Yes.
some things, they need to be clarified, and it's important that
Yes.
that teacher do
Yes.
that.
It's very
Okay,
important.
yeah. Okay, good. What about you, Karen? Did you see something that was not expected to happen and happen in the lesson, like not understanding or something like that?
Okay, in some classes, the students didn't understand that theory that the teacher was telling them, but they already that had the idea how to do the theory because the teacher had already explained to the student to them to continue with the class, and I think that the it's something very normal in the student because when the student don't understand the theory, but the teacher is the responsibility to explain the students. But
Okay.
yeah,
Okay, good. Nice. So she took advantage, yes, of that to give extra explanations to help the students
yeah,
understand. Okay, good.
Yes,
Thank
there's
you.
topics are difficult for the children, so it's a normal
yeah, it's
for
normal.
Yes, that's true. Okay, good. Suleiman, what about you? Is there something that did not happen in the lesson that was supposed to happen?
Okay, and my observation, I noticed that some did not understand, so they after that explained um, they are working very well, and after
Okay, good. So the teacher used the other students, yes, to help the class understand. So that's interesting because it's not only the teacher
Yes,
explaining all the time, but also using students as a source to help each other. It builds a collaborative learning, and that's something very significant. Nice. Okay, good.
yes,
Isabel, please. What did not happen?
The class was not spoken totally in English. I mean, the teachers find the topics, what you want they made in class, and the step by step to get it. However, children say expressions as, I don't understand, I don't know what to do, I don't know what are you saying. So the teacher explaining again, but changing words, and so she had to talk in Spanish to be understood.
Okay, good. Well,
yes,
your idea is very similar to what I had about the lesson because as we expect that teachers only use English because they are teaching English, I mean, it's what we expect,
right.
but it doesn't really happen all the time.
Yes,
Sometimes
yes,
the
it's
teachers
right.
just are using switch coding, like changing from Spanish into English and then again, and I think that it's not absolutely necessary because
Yes,
sometimes we assume that students don't understand. But if you give a good
exactly.
explanation, if you give an example, if you show them what they have to do, for sure they will. So unfortunately, it was something that I could see in the lesson that the teacher was not using English all the time, but partially, as Zuleima said, Spanglish sometimes that it works, but
Yes,
but we suppose that it shouldn't be that way, right? Do you agree with me?
Yes,
yes, yes.
I
I
think
think that depends of every student or the course, the level of the students. So many factors, really. Yes, in
Yeah,
fact, so many factors uh, is for that.
i- and more if they are on small degree, the students. For example, I don't know the partner. I believe the student is small, really small students.
In primary school, in elementary school.
Primary, yeah, I believe that.
Okay, good. Isabel, you were going to say something?
yes, I guess that sometimes when you speak in Spanish or in English, but they feel comfortable. Comfortable. They feel that
Comfortable. Yes.
can understand you and can make
Yeah.
what you want. They can do. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so it's
Yes.
something that we can use to scaffold. So maybe start using it at the beginning, but eventually they don't need those steps, and they can just understand everything the teacher says. Okay, good.
Because they know some vocabulary, but sometimes they don't know the connectors. And when you talk with the connector, they don't know what you mean with that. Or some phrasal verbs or something like that.
Yeah, it's something that
in general, the grammatic rules are difficult for the children. Yes.
Yeah,
yeah, but that's the idea, that we can help them in the process. Yes, to make better.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, people, let's move to the next question. Yes, the next question is number 4. So please, Isabel, would you like to read that question for us?
Characterize the students and their attitudes towards the subject and the teacher.
Okay, good. Max, would you like to tell us your opinion about that?
Yes. In general, the acceptance of the students towards the course is good, and there is an interesting interest in learning and understanding the lessons. They also have the respect and admiration for the teacher. There is a constant feedback and appropriate interaction that makes the class have an interesting dynamic, and this motivates a student to learn. It's a very good relationship in between teacher student teacher. So it's very helpful for the learning process.
Yes, that's called rapport. So that rapport that you establish with your students, that good relationship, is totally useful. So I agree with you.
Yes.
Okay, good. Caro, what about you? Could you characterize the students and their attitudes in the lessons that you observe, please?
Okay, with respect to the partner maths, I believe the feedback in learning is very, very important, as it refers to how most success a student achieve in performing an academic process, assignment process. In my case, the students, they work with different personalities. For example, there were grades with tired students, with difficult behavior, but there were other who behaved well and were always attentive to the class, more exactly the girls, but the boys really very disciplined. Really, they were quiet, cheerful, active, undisciplined, disciplined students. In the grades that I was, that was tier 4 and 5, the behavior in English class was good. For example, the students in 5 was disciplined and participated a lot of. This was a great, very excellent, really. And the other grades, was good. Paying attention sometimes, other yes, and so this.
Okay, good. So you have different kind of people in the class, yes? Some of them attentive, others were not that much.
Yes.
Okay, good. But that's normal, yes? That usually happens in our lessons. That's something normal. Okay, good. Isabel, please?
Yeah. Okay, students really enjoy this class. All the time they are waiting the English class because the teacher is kind and lovely with them. And the students always are paying attention to class, develop and following instructions. But sometimes the students have difficulties with the pronunciation because they have their own troubles with their mother tongue, which may hard the learning of a second language because they are a student for kindergarten and they're little still, and they have their own difficulties with their pronunciation, the Spanish pronunciation, and then they have more difficulties for the English pronunciation.
Yeah, that's true, because they are using the mother tongue as a basis. So if they haven't developed this completely, so then they have those difficulties in the second language. That's true. Thank you so much, dear. Okay, Zuleima, what about you? Could you characterize the students in the lessons that you observe, please?
The to raise the observer faith and pressure.
Sorry, dear. Could you speak up? Could you speak up? Could you speak
Sort
aloud?
of to Sophie very active and intelligent. I think many things very crucial. Top of friction how to that is concentrate very easily and they are problem learning. The author is very interactive.
Oh, okay, good. So in the lessons that you observed, they were active children, yes, in general terms. Okay, good. What I can tell you about the lessons that I observed was that it was common to your comments. It was similar. Some students were very active. Other ones were reluctant. Some of them didn't
Yes.
want to participate. I think that it happens sometimes because of the age. They are maybe shy students because they are teenagers, so they don't like speaking that much. So that's why. And I agree with Carolina, I guess, that was the one that said that usually girls are more active, are more participative,
Yeah.
yes, and they behave better.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
also observe that.
The
Yeah, it's
voice.
something
It's the
common.
general rule. Yes. The
Yeah,
girls
they,
are more.
yeah. We are the queens. We are the queens and the princesses, so we behave well. Yes? Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on, people. Let's go to question number 5. Yes? Please, Zuleima, could you read this question for us, number 5?
What?
The question 5 is about
Okay.
Yes.
Remarkable non-verbal barrier.
behavior.
Max.
Yes, thank you, dear. Max?
Okay. The remarkable nonverbal behavior. There's a undoubtedly remarkable nonverbal behavior. This is achieved through the interaction of the teacher with the students and the students among themselves. But this behavior are respectful and do not constitute a problem for children. So
Okay, good. So they usually respect rules, yes, and they still respect adults.
yes,
Fortunately.
yes,
Uh-huh.
yes,
Yeah, so that's an advantage for us. Okay, good. Thank you. Carolina, please.
yes.
Okay. In my case, the students develop well in their environment where they spread their emotions as joy, enthusiasm, or surprise. In addition, the teacher Mauli uh, uh, was a teacher who captivated her student because she always smiling, motivated. She used gestures, movements to lead her students. She was always aware of her students. Really was the teacher was very friendly with the students. Yes, this topic very important in for the teacher.
Yeah, and those body gestures, yes, that body language is very significant because it's another way to teach students. Sometimes if they don't understand,
Yes.
but you can make those gestures, this helps them a lot. Okay, good. Suleima, what about you? Could you tell us any remarkable non-behavior that you could observe?
The most reward reward were the enthusiasm and emotional participation in the activities. The teacher always helped them in the activities in a clean way.
Okay, good. So the teacher was enthusiastic, yes? And this is
Yeah.
contagious. If the teacher is
The new
enthusiastic,
teacher are enthusiastic.
yeah, and students will be
The other
enthusiastic too.
ones is more
Okay.
quiet,
Yeah.
quiet, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, they are very hyperactive, yes?
It's a fact, yes, it's
Yeah,
a fact.
okay.
Naturally, yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. Isabel, what about you? What remarkable non-verbal behavior could you observe in your lesson? Please.
Okay, so how as I say you before, this teacher is a funny. So she all time is doing jokes and mimics, changing her voice. And when the student was Mooney play with some toy, she took the toy and just started to repeat the topics, handle the toy with a funny voice, and all children just laugh at and enjoy the class. Or sometimes when they love some story, a book, and it doesn't matter if it is in Spanish, she just take the book and start to read it in English. And they really enjoy it because they know the story and know what is going to happen and just enjoy the story in another language. And they really enjoy it. And she has a lot of uh, a lot of love for them. She really loves what she is going to do. She's doing in class.
Yeah,
It's a
and what,
young teacher, right? It's so funny. Yes, it's a young
It's
teacher.
very
Yes.
funny.
yeah, and
Yeah.
usually when you love what you do, you reflect that. Yes, Isabel,
Yes. Yes.
and your students react towards that. Yes, if you are
Yes.
that lovely teacher, hopefully they will love what you do too, and they will like to have lessons with you.
Yes.
Okay, something
It's
that I
true. Yes.
observed in my lessons was that some students were sometimes confused, and as they were confused, it causes them to become bored if you don't totally understand what the teacher is saying. But then I could see that the
Yeah.
teacher reacted to that. So if the teacher could see that some students were confused or they were reluctant, so she tried to motivate them. And a way to do it was that even sometimes she changed the activities. So she had a pacing, but sometimes she made decisions at the moment of doing the activities to make students be engaged. So I think that that's
Yes.
something very relevant for the
Yes.
lessons and for the students too. Good. Let's go with question number 6. Caro, would you like to read it for us? Question number 6.
Okay. This is about the surprises considered especially relate to the class objectives.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In my parents. Okay, sorry. Um,
Let me explain that.
yeah.
Sorry for me. So I can
Sorry.
start.
It's for
Yes.
you.
I go first. I go first. Yeah. Well, in my experience, the teacher used a method that rewards the right answers with a candy, and this is a very significant because it applies behavioral theory without repricing or obstructing the students who are drawn to answer. And this surprised me because it certainly represents a way to motivate students without affecting those who do not feel able to respond or who do so incorrectly. In the end, everyone has a sweet and or his candy, and they feel satisfied. And it was a very interesting and significant way to learn. So for me, it was very interesting. It's
Okay, good. Nice
yes,
experience. Okay, good. Thank you so much. Good.
yes, it's a
Okay,
nice
Caro, what about
experience.
you? What surprises or concerns did you discover in the lessons that you observed?
Okay. In my case, I was surprised how the teacher correctly handled a special child with physical and cognitive disabilities, saying it was always very imperative and aggressive with the teacher and students. Really, oh my God.
Oh,
Yeah, this not pay attention, telling what she during was give him material such as colors and paper, and so she continued with the class. But really, it was I was very careful in my case. I I I won't know how to call this student because oh my God, I say oh was terrible, the student, really.
Yes,
It's a case very special, really.
Good.
This
it's a hard job for the teacher.
yeah, for the
It's a hard
teacher.
job, yes.
But it's good to see how she could handle that. It was not
Yes.
it didn't impede her to do the lesson or to continue with the activities.
Yeah.
But she
Yes.
just directed the student's energy to do something else, and she could continue with the class. So that's something positive. Nice. Okay, good. Zuleima, what about you? Surprises or concerns?
Surprised. Yes, I was surprised between the teacher home with the professor and student. The children are very tired. It is difficult for them to concentrate, so that the teacher gave them the classes with playful activities, such as dynamics, songs, or materials such as coloring paper, coloring things.
Okay, good. Okay, nice. So she was well prepared. Yes.
And
Yes,
Yeah.
better prepared.
Yeah, she knew her students, and that's important to take into account
Yes.
the students that you have, because not all the classes are the same. Every group is different, so it's good
Yes.
to consider
Okay.
that. Yes. So then
The
you
motivation
can,
is important for the children, yes.
Yeah.
yeah, and if you know
Yeah.
your students, you can deal with these situations, with these different
Yes.
things. Okay, Isabel, please, concerns or surprises that you had in the lessons that you observed?
I was surprised because children read in Spanish and they are children with 6 years old. So they just start to read some words in English too, because they are waiting for more. They want more, and sometimes
Oh, external
yes,
noise.
Pardon, I can hear you.
Can we close the microphones while Isabel is speaking, please?
yes. Now are you hearing me? Are you hearing me? Yes. I was
Yeah.
surprised because children read in Spanish, and the children are in age for 6 years old, so they start to learn English, and they can recognize how to pronounce some words when the teacher showed them in flashcards. And they do listening tests, and they practice writing, organizing letters, like playing Handman, something like that. That was surprising.
Is it a bilingual school, Isabel?
No,
No?
no. They
Okay.
just had the English class, but the teacher had about 6 hours a week for
Wow.
them, 6 hours.
Good. So that's a really high intensity. So that's
Yes.
good.
Yes.
It's good for the students. Okay,
It's
good.
good
Nice.
for the students, right?
Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, let's move to the next question. Max, would you like to read it? Question number 7.
Yes. Yes. What didactics of English were evident in the observation? In my case, in the classes I observed, I could show a significant approach in the teaching tools, such as the use of ICT, use of slides, and also the teacher applied a bit of behavioral approach, where I reward the positive response with a sweet or candy or something like that, and this seemed wonderful. Is another way to teach. Yes.
Yeah. Oh. Okay. Sure. I continue. Okay. Okay, in my case, the class the teacher used games such as puzzles, card stories to read, for example, the topics family members and others. Moreover, videos, audios for the class were more dynamic for the students. Really was the teacher used IST very good for the students. It is very
Yes.
excellent because the student very more motivated.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Zuleima, what about you? Your experience?
Okay. The teacher also sounds stories filmed in English, video, books with graphical material such as billboard, dictionaries, dolls to influence for festival. Yes,
Okay, good.
The songs are very good, no? The song. Very,
Yes.
Yeah, especially working with children, they love songs. Yes, so they are very practical. Okay, good. And what
Yes.
about you, Isabel?
okay.
Okay, the teacher uses didactic material which she herself make to carry out her playful activity. She uses audiovisual resource, classroom objects, and even the objects of the students. For example, sometimes when she was talking about food, she touched on long verses and began to take out the food, and she started to review the vocabulary, and it's good for them. They always are expecting which is the lunch was that she's going to take to show the content. And another good thing that I saw was what the teacher means the artistic class with English learning. So it's more funny for them because artistic learning is very important in this age for them because they can
Right.
develop some skills that they need for the life.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's important. Yeah,
yeah.
because I have always thought that when you are teaching a language, you are not only teaching the language itself, but something that is related to culture. So those social
Right.
skills are very important. In my
Yes.
case, what I observed in these lessons, some didactics, was that the teacher always started every lesson with a game. Usually it was a game to activate prior knowledge, so students could remember or brainstorm ideas about the topic for that specific lesson. And also that although they have a book, they are using the English please because this is in secondary level, in high school. Students were not totally working with the book, but sometimes you use the book to help them to work on some special tasks. So she was using task-based learning. So it was something that was interesting because she adapted the material that she had in the book. So I
Yes.
found that something very interesting. Okay, good. Okay, people, let's go with the last question. The last question has to do with ideas to change. Yes.
Yes.
Max, please, would you like to read that question for us or to mention what this is about?
Yes. Okay. And propose alternatives ways in which the teacher could have handled the lesson, question, or situation. And for me, one alternative way of handling the situation is to apply participatory teaching tools that involve the students more, or uh, another methodological ways to teach, like technology or another important materials for learning. Yes, so I I propose that part.
Okay, good. Thank you so much, Max. Caro, what about you? What do you propose? Another way to have handled those lessons?
Okay, I believe a strategy would be to focus students' attention in the classroom, as well as strategies to promote the link between the students' prior knowledge and the new information that the student will learn in the classroom. I think that is one good strategy for the students.
Yeah, and it's
Yes,
good because they are not empty. They are not empty minds. Yes, they bring something that they know about the world in which they live. So connecting that with new knowledge is something that becomes really significant. Good.
Yes.
Zuleima, what about you?
What the teacher should have they make the issues, put more activities, highlight the importance of English against society, so that the student understand how important it is to learn English.
Okay, good. So you are talking about raising consciousness about the importance of learning English. Yes, that is not just a subject, but it's a means of communication. Yes, so that's something important for them. Good. Isabel, what about you?
Okay.
I really love the way how the teacher got the classes, because she catches the attention of all the students, using different strategies, and I saw the innovation, playfulness, love for her work, and something that I really like about her was that she doesn't send homeworks. They do everything in classes, and this is important for me because
Yes.
I agree with the homeworks.
Okay, so you don't like doing the homework. But
Yeah, it's like that, because the homework, sometimes homeworks are for the parents, and
Yeah, yes, it's a fact.
you can
Yeah.
see how the students are advancing, and in the house now, the parents do everything for them.
yeah, that's true. So that's part of the assessment, yes, that we give the students when they do everything in the class. Something that I would propose the teacher to do is, like, for example, when she wanted to check some things that the students didn't understand, instead of using Spanish, she could have used concept checking questions to confirm what the students didn't understand. So, for example, explaining grammar.
Yes.
What is the main part of this question? What do you think is this used for? What is the verb form? Like, guiding the students to discover the grammar rather than just telling them how it works. So I would use that concept checking questions, which I found really, really useful. And also
Yes.
clarify instructions instead of translating them into English. So I totally agree with what the experts say, that you don't need to translate
Yes.
if you model, if you are using modeling, if you are giving steps by steps, so then students will understand better. So you don't need to translate that into Spanish, especially instructions. Okay, good. So
Yes.
people, I think we have learned a lot, yes, through this experience
Yes.
of observing other teachers. It has been a very nice meeting. Thank you so much for giving us your comments, and we hope that our teacher Edwin will be happy listening to our conversation about this topic. Okay,
Okay.
so
You,
thank you so much, people,
Yes.
for your
Okay.
time,
Thank
and I
you.
hope you
Thank
have
you,
a good night.
partner there. Yes.
bye.
Thank you, Andrea, for your time and
Yeah.
for
Thank you.
for
Okay,
your
Yuri.
job. Yes.
okay,
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you all, people. Take good care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.